All right, so today's topic of the AEP debrief is how to utilize your saved reports to update your existing policies. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'll be addressing the questions that are in the chat as soon as I am done with like a little segment of the presentation. Okay, so first thing we will do in this is we will go down to reports. We're going to go to saved report. We're going to build a new saved report. We're going to give that report a name like 2024 product updates. And we are going to select for, I would say, for client policies and lead policies. Why would I select lead policies? Well, you might have forgotten to actually update the record into being a client rather than a lead. So I think it's always good to choose both, just in case. Let's go to next, because this is just going to pull all of those policies. So we can group it by assigned agent because maybe we're going to want to give this information to another agent on the team to verify all this stuff. So let's do it by assigned agent. And then the sort order, again, we'll do assigned agent just so that it defaults it so it's easy to kind of chop the report up into pieces. And then the total column, we'll just do number of records just so we can see how many policies each of those agents have. And Haley, if you could also help me mute anybody who is unmuted accidentally, that would be great. Okay, so now I am going to add in the report columns that I want. So this grouping section up here, just so I can explain it in case you haven't used saved reports before. The grouping is like if you were doing a pie chart or a bar chart, that you would be able to see the number of records for each agent, right? So it would be like Danielle, Haley, Sam, whomever, right? And then we'd say 37, 85, etc. You could also do that by carrier. You could do it by whatever you want. But these are just the grouping. And then the sort order is going to be how you want the report arranged. Most of the time, you're going to want it by last name. In this case, I'm giving the assigned agent example because we might actually want to have the assigned agent be the one who confirms everything. And then number of the total column. Don't mute me. Uh, sorry. Okay. So just going back a little bit. Let's see. Um, so the assigned agent is going to be our grouping. So that way we can group it by that for a pie chart or a bar chart, or just to get the tally of how many policies each of these agents has. So that would be number of records as the grouping. Then we have commission, renewals, and premiums as another way to see it. So we could actually see who has like the total number of the commissions or the premiums, etc. So those are your grouping options. But then we want what's going to actually be returned in the report. Now, anything in this grouping up here would have to be in the report columns. Otherwise, it won't be able to pull that data for that report. So first field I'm going to add is assigned agent. Great, that's done. Now I want to see what other fields I want to add. I probably don't need the person's city. I might need their state because maybe their policies are updating for the state that they're in. And I'm going to also remove zip. I could add in county if I wanted to. I could add in that status. I want state. I definitely want carrier product status. I also want to organize it by policy status. This is going to be really helpful in case we've got policies where the person has canceled or terminated. We're going to want to ignore those, right? So we're not going to update an expired policy. Then I'm going to do maybe premium. And these are all things that you can actually use this report to change in the system. So anything that you want to change and update using this report, you're going to want to pop in there. Again, it has to be policy related though. So you're going to update the policies and not the actual lead or client record, just a policy report. We've got premium, want renewal date with year, because that's probably the most important element of this report that you're going to update. Signed agent we have, anything else you want, but the most critical is we need the record product ID. This is how the system will match against this report to put the right information into the proper policy. So the most important one here, select fields to add, is going to be record product ID. Make sure it's in there. Otherwise, this will not work. Okay, let me just check this little question. Great. Perfect. Okay. So we'll move on. So this is just the way that we've created this report. So it's 2024 product updates. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to download this USB file. And I've got to share my entire screen now. So let me stop sharing and I'll reshare. Okay. So, Haley, can you confirm that you can see my Excel or my spreadsheet here?
Yep, can see it.
Great. So now we've only exported the data that we have requested, right? So we've got the name of the person. If it's a lead or a client product, you can see I actually do have some lead products in there. So I was bad in not converting those if they're actually active. And I'm not tracking the person's actual status, which is not good, but that's okay for now because this is just a policy report, but also good to know. So here I've got the carrier product status, and then I've got the assigned agent. I've got the totals, like I mentioned before. So that's also helpful information. The policy status, now this is what's really important. And then the premium renewal date here and the product record ID. So now I'm going to use this to clean it up a little bit. Either I can divide it out by each of the assigned agents, or if I'm going to just do it myself, I'll just delete the extra information. We don't want any weird rows in there. But now I'm going to organize this by policy status. I'm going to sort by policy status. Why? Because I want to delete the one that's canceled. I don't want to update something that's been canceled. So I'm going to delete those canceled rows. And then maybe these are in underwriting and pending, I need to confirm because maybe now they're actually in force. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I've confirmed all of them are in force. Wonderful. And I can add in more premium. So here I'm just updating this manually. Right. And now, since all of these are in force, my renewal date should actually be now 1/1/2024 because all of them have renewed. So I'm going to copy this. You can't drag anything that's a number because it'll do this weird thing where it's like, instead of it dragging the, oh, yeah, so see, it puts 1/1, it puts January 1st, then January 2nd. So you actually have to copy it in this case and paste it. So that way it's always going to be 1/1/2024. So this is the new renewal date with the year. Okay, so now we're going to export that file. So again, this part is simply that we're cleaning up the data that we want to change in our system. You could do this with a small enough thing like this. You could literally just go in file by file, but I'm sure that you guys have a larger book of businesses than my examples. So let's export this to a CSV file. And now I'm going to go to leads and clients. So I'm going to go to clients and I'm going to hit import clients, even though I'm actually not looking for the client import. I am scrolling down now to update existing client policies. Click. Now I'm going to see all of the valid field names, and most of these things will map, but the one thing that we definitely need is that product record ID. So that's essential, right? So now I'm going to browse for my file. Open, and go to next. This is fairly similar to any other import that you've probably done with our system, but let's just go through the mapping. So you don't necessarily need to import the name because that's not part of the policy. So we'll just ignore those things. You could also have deleted them from the previous file. But when it says do not import, it's just saying we're not going to import this because it's not associated with the policy. So that's fine. So the carrier product status I do not need because I've already confirmed that, or if I did confirm it, I would have needed to split it out by carrier product and status separately. So the assigned agent, also not going to do that policy status. So this I think maps to product status. Premium found itself. I'm going to look for renewal date and then record product ID. Let me see if it does product. I think it's actually record ID. So it's just going to map to record ID. So record product ID is going to map to record ID because it knows that we're searching against the products or the. So now I'm going to import this. It's going to confirm that we're not going to import those other things and hit OK. Now I'm going to go into the clients and I will see, let me see if Dan was one of them that we changed. And then his policies. And now I see that renewal is 1/1/2024 instead of the previous 1/1/2023. Okay. All right. So, sorry that there's a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure why that's the case. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see if I can change my audio settings at all. Um, Put a filter on there. So hopefully that's a little bit better. Um, okay. All right. So let's cover any questions that you guys have with that, or maybe any goals that you would have for updating your policy. So if you'll put your questions in the chat, or if you will raise your hand. No questions? Is that too easy? I doubt it. Um, okay. Well, definitely let me know if you do have any other questions. Now, the most ideal thing that you would have done in this case, though, would have been to convert those additional lead records into a client record prior to importing that. But let's look at our file again. We'll see. So like Danielle Bond, like lead. in the and on her policies. So she was not updated because she was not a client, even though it was matching against that policy record ID. So what we would have needed to do would have been to convert her to a client beforehand. So convert to client and change that. But this is why that report is so helpful to see like, oops, I left somebody in as a lead. So I want to convert all of these people prior to updating my book of business. So that is an important part of this. I think that data validation is really vital in a CRM, right? Because your system is only going to be as effective as the data that you're putting in it. So this is a really nice way to do some data validation. Um, I can talk a little bit more about other reports that would be good for that if you want. Okay. All right. And again, the recording of this will be there tomorrow for you. But let's go. This is another report that I've helped some people generate that I think is quite helpful. Just put a saved report. I need to build a new saved report. There's something policy data validation. Policy data. And then I would recommend putting this out to all users for lead and again for the client policies as well. So lead and client policies. So that way you make sure that you're converting them. And then if you're using that at submit date, I recommend using that. So yesterday to current date. So using that at submit date from the policy will then help you be able to validate it before it even goes in force. And I'll show you where you can track that at submit date. If you have not been using it, I do find it to be very helpful. Hit next. And I would group it by system. So that way you can see that for yourself, the number of records that they have, signed agent, of course, needs to be down here since you're using it in that grouping section. And then I think that it's helpful to see the name status. I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. I want to see the carrier status for the policy. I want to see the effective date with year. Somebody forgets to put that effective date in. It's going to be a problem. Renewal date. They might not need the renewal date. But let's see if they put in their product policy coverage type. That's also an important thing. So that way you can search against that really nice. And anything else that you want to validate, maybe premium, um, anything else. So you can organize this the way that you want to see it and submit. Now, what we can do with that policy validation is put it onto our dashboard so your agents can see it on a regular basis. So here I'm going to go to dashboard settings, edit, and I'm going to put that, I'm going to put that onto policy, data validation. It's going to be a report, and I'm going to submit it. And now if I go to my dashboard, I will see that. I'm going to collapse this unsigned sensitive appointment. I'm going to down a little bit. It might be still loading that report. Oh, you know what it is? No, there were no matching criteria. So let me do yesterday. Data can track it. Add policy. So let me show you how I would not do that. Enforce or sale made. Banner health. Put in 100. The effective date and first. This is that estimate date. So this is what we would be using to track this information. And this is probably more relevant for people who have larger teams I think it's super helpful. So today's app submit date, any other information that you have in there, and then save. Now, if I go to the dashboard, I will need to refresh that. There we go. So see how I hit this little refresh? Because it's only going to try to generate it once per day automatically for you, just so that way it's not always running in the background using the computer's memory. So just hit refresh if you need to look at it. But now I see that there's one policy validation. See how her status is missing and her policy coverage type and the renewal date with year. So this is a good way for that agent to be able to go in and see their work and then be like, "Ooh, we're missing stuff." Or you as an admin can go in and say, "Hey, you weren't missing stuff." So go into your client, go into their status of their policy, edit, say the Med Advantage, and the renewal date is going to be 1/1/2025. Refresh it again. And now we see that information. I don't know why it's not pulling that status, but I'm going to look into that. But here we have this. So I believe that it's because it's not finding the status because it's searching against the policy information and it's not return anything other than the associated client name in there. But I'll double. But yeah, to see how that can help you get the validated information on the policy. So that way you can more accurately track your effective renewal date and your premium amount, commissions, etc. This is also super helpful once we get into how you're going to utilize automated workflows to track policies. If you don't have the right renewal data in there, it's not going to be able to generate that information for you properly. So making sure your policy data is accurate is highly important. Okay, any other questions or goals that you have for kind of updating your system, your records, your policies, anything like that? No? All right. Haley, anything that I brought up that you think might be a good suggestion to kind of cover?
I thought you actually covered pretty well as far as updates. I was kind of waiting for somebody to have a question to trigger my own
Yeah,
thoughts, and like nothing is coming to mind.
good. I mean, I want to keep this as focused as possible just so that way you guys don't have to like think too much and it's not overwhelming on each of these topics. I kind of split them up specifically so that way it's super focused. But um, anybody run into any problems that you've had with updating reports or with any with using saved reports in general? Saved reports is probably one of my favorite features just because you can rerun them. Let me show you a couple of other little tweaks that we've made to saved reports. Um, And in the meantime, you can either raise your hand. Even if you just do this now, usually it will raise your hand for you, but it's in reaction. Or you can put your question into the chat. Let's just look at some other little tweaks we've made. So in reports, you've got custom reports, status reports, saved reports, my favorite, appointment, policy, call logs, SMS delivery, revenue, call recordings, and contracts. So one question that Randy had about using saved reports is can you go into the report and then go back into the uh, rather than bouncing back and forth? Yes, kind of. So if I run this report, so say I run it in the system, you can either use it if you've got the AMS plan, you can just call this list with the dial key automatically and it'll roll through that list. Or you can click on the first policy and update that and then go to the next in the row to see how there's next or previous. So you can go into the next record that needs attention. But to go back to the report, you would need to click back, the back arrow, which I usually tell you not to do because if you're in the dialer, it will refresh the dialer as well. So if your goal is to just plow through getting some of these reports done, exit the dialer, and then you can click into this person, update their file, click back, go back to the report. But if you're in the dialer, do not do that. You'll keep calling the last person again. He'll be like, why do you keep calling me? Because when you hit the back arrow, it refreshes the CRM and the dialer at the same time. Great. Um, Anything that's not on this topic, if you could email me after the meeting, that would be great. Um, I remember. And okay, so then let's go on to some of these other reports. So in the well, first off, in the Sage report, you can bulk update if it's not a policy. So you can't bulk update policies, unfortunately. Um, you can get totals. So you can just see the totals for those uh, groupings that we have. So these are for the assigned agents in the grouping. And then it'll also total any premium amounts as well for that person. You can download attachments. I can show everything again, except just the totals. If I'm on AMS plan, I can follow it to dial queue. The AMS plan also has some additional features now for reporting. So you can schedule the report. So if you wanted like a monthly report of all of this is not a good example, but like say for that data validation, you could actually email it to yourself or to multiple people, just separate it with a comma and then decide, is it a daily report? Is it every Monday? Is it every Friday, Saturday, first day of the month, last day of the month, etc.? So you can build out these reports and schedule them to be sent to yourself. So that way you don't have to even think about looking at them in the dashboard or um, in the settings. So that's a really nice feature there. Then, of course, you can actually create a goal report. So you can create a goal. Again, this is on the AMS plan. So you could say goal is sales per week. Goal is 40. Start date is the first day of the week, and the end date is the last day of the week. This would be helpful if you have something that you're pushing as a saved report to your dashboard that you want all of your agents to see. Oh, you can generate mailing labels for any of these. So, not for the policies, but I go to active clients, I can hit generate mailing labels, and it will give me a document that has the addresses for each of those people. Clearly, I do not have the addresses for any of those people, um, but that's on both plans. So all plans have that feature. You can download the file or download or email it to yourself. If it's a very large file, I recommend emailing it. And just because downloading uses your computer's power, emailing uses our server. As I said, you can schedule the report, generate, you can download files associated with it, and you can copy the report. So if you hit copy, you can just tweak it a little bit. So instead of 2024 product, now we're just going to do 2025. Probably is not really what you want to do in this case, but this is a way for you to go through the by carrier or coverage type. So that might be a good way for you to do that copy feature. Okay. And the call log, I really like the call log report. It's just really helpful for me to kind of address anything where I'm like, ooh, I forgot to call that person back, or oh, I want to listen back to a call recording. So if I search here and I scroll down. I can also do it by phone number. I can do it by lead source, anything that I want there. And if I hit summary report, it's just going to give me a tally of like the minutes that I've used, right? And how many, like this person's been on the phone longer than that person, right? If I do detailed report, it's also going to show me all the people that I called, which is really helpful because then I can go into this person's file, go into their call recording, and listen back to that important call. Listen back or don't. You can also download those results if you want them. It's also another way for you to track how many minutes you're using in a month. Somebody asked me something that with the ETA for separating first and last name fields. We have that separated already. So let's say you were building a report and you wanted it by, let's say, an age lead report. I can edit this and I go to the next page. I can sort it by last name. And then here I just need to make sure that I put last name and then first name in there. Oops, my first wow is Monday. First name. So now those are both in there, and I'm going to delete full name, and then I'm just going to sort it that way. And now I'm submitted. I'm going to run that report. I don't know if I'll have anything in there, but let me put somebody in there as an age lead. Hmm. I don't know what I put in, what I put that in as. But if I just build, let me just going to do a full client. It's probably not the most helpful thing, but at very least, if you needed to do it by carrier, something like that, I could see that being a very useful thing. So a carrier list would make a lot of sense. Do by last name, first name, carrier is redundant. So now it's split out for you, and it's organized by last name. I think that there's like a space or something there that's creating in the border. Oh no, it's just download that. I might have some. Oh yeah, because I have spaces. So it's taking the spaces as actual. Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. So I just had a bunch of spaces before Bond and Anthony, which is why it's not actually putting it into alphabetical order. Um, okay. So there is font. Um, and this like a last name search, just so that I explain a little bit why we don't have it organized by last name. Our system is meant to be actionable. So like what actions do you want to take on these open clients? You could always search by so it'd be like, I want to work up here, right? And then it'll find all the Smiths and so that's available for you at all times. But when you're working a record list, usually, like especially for leads, you're going to want to do that. So, like, how long have they been in the system? That's really important. So that's why we have newest touch, or you could also do oldest create date. So these are more actionable things. Knowing how when people have been in the system or what status they're at, that's going to be more impactful to actually maximizing your book of business and really working it with the lead client. So that's why we have it set up. But yeah, the report helps you to get whatever kind of framework you want to work. And I know that that is helpful for especially carrier reports and doing that kind of reconciliation. Um, SMS delivery report. This is also another thing that I think is important. So if you are getting a lot of blocks on your SMS number, it is kind of helpful to see what campaigns you might have that are creating those blocks. Let me see if I've got any records in there. So I search this date, and then I can also search my specific campaign. I don't think I'll have anything. Let me see if there's anything. And that, okay, so great. So in my outgoing messages, I have my status of okay. So 43 of them went out. And then I've got pretty low failed or flop. So here I've got total opt-out is 0. And the opt-out rate being 0 is humming. So that's really good. Um, so if you are getting a lot of opt-outs on a campaign, address that campaign. Make sure that you are, doing it. You're only sending out to your existing clients, or that you've got an opt-in for texting for those. The fines are quite high for, uh, you know, smishing, as they call it, which is spam phishing or SMS phishing. And so, just making sure that you've got like a really tight campaign. This is going to kind of tell you how successful each of those campaigns are and where you might want to be within compliance. Milan, I will unmute you to ask a question on stage report. Give me one moment. I think you can unmute yourself, but
Thank you, Danielle.
yeah.
Quick question for you. We run mainly saved reports. This is the easiest report to run. And we always run by yearly, and we run it by date of birth. Like right now, we're running March 1st to April 15th. And we
Okay.
put all the goodies in there, policy, active or not active. But is there any way to get that list by date, like March 1st, March 2nd, in order, in
Yeah.
numerical order? Because it just gives us all over the place between that period of time.
First, so basically, you kind of either have to use like next month birthdays, right?
Okay.
So, and this you would probably to make, available to yourself or all users. I would assume all users. So for leads,
Right.
clients, and then if you're on an AMS plan, you might have other and whatever your additional record types are, right? Okay. So now I'm going to go down here. And I'm going to search against date of birth.
So we normally go month, date of birth, and we go down to the specific all the way down.
Yeah. So my advice would be is so that we would do
We do like a month and
first
a half.
day of, yeah. Well, I would say it's going to be a little tricky to do that. So the first day of the next month, I mean, you can't really do like, I mean, maybe to the last day of the quarter.
Okay.
That that might help, but then it's going to get wonky. Then it's like,
That's fine.
I,
As long as
I
they're in
feel like,
order.
yeah, exactly. So the quarter though would end kind of on May, I'm sorry, March 30th.
And we
So
can
you're
work that.
only going to get, yeah. So, but that's one way for you to do that. You could potentially do it that way. But I also want to call attention to the specific dates. You can do specific dates, so that way you can say, I want to run a campaign for people who are this exact age, which could help for a call campaign or for, targeting a specific group of people. But also, you can run it by their birthday. Is Like to say you wanted to, say you sell auto insurance and you want to, in the state of New Jersey, go by their 17th birthday and pull a report of everybody who's turning 17, 180 days from now to today. And that way, would deselect all this. See how I can deselect it by just scrolling up and getting the blank again there. So this way you could actually pull a report on everybody who's aging into their driver's,
Thank you.
and then you can call their parents. Or you can do it based off of maybe a late retirement age, so 69th birthday, or whatever you want to do. So this specific date of birthday and then the range of birthday, I think is really helpful. This month's day of birth is fairly limited. So again, Milan, you'll have to kind of play around with that exact thing. But you could also always just get notified with an automated workflow. I think that you're aware of that, but just wanted to say it again. You could always just say, anytime somebody's birthday is coming up, email that to me, you know, um, 45 days in advance. So that way it's always 45 days in advance for you. But that's an option. And we'll be talking about workflows later in the week. But if you want any of that specific information, just let me know. We have another question in the chat. Thank you. Comment. Any other questions on reports? Once you've actually updated your book of business, and you have the new renewals and that's all calculating for you, you can then pull in your commission statement. So you go into your commissions, then you import your carrier statement. Once you've done that, and then use the revenue report. And if you wanted to do this month by, one of the carriers, year to date is range 1/1/2022 to get data in there. And then I run this report and it's going to show me the projected versus actuals. And then if I export the report, it will show me the exact information. Run report. Sometimes dummy data is not the best data. And then I would export the report and then I would see it line by line who exactly has what. So yeah. And so here I would see it line by line. So this agent has this client, this is their expected premium, this is the expected versus the received. So once you start actually tracking the received payments, you could see I received this money for this person, but I didn't receive it for this other person. Then you'll know to call the carrier and ask them, what's going on. Very frustrating thing. All right. It seems like we can wrap up now. So hopefully that little overview is helpful. And tomorrow's topic is, let me look. Tomorrow's topic is, you guys can be asking me any last minute questions in the meantime as I look this up. Tomorrow is building a status for aged leads and then how to work them throughout the year. So that way you can create an aged lead status and then really try to figure out a strategy for working on them during the year. All right. Seeing no other questions, have a beautiful day and I will talk to you soon. Bye.